Hey guys, welcome back to the Horton Talk, and we want to continue with part 2 of looking not only at Mental Health Month for September, but this whole arena of the masculinity and the femininity of life,
Yeah.
of where it all is made up in and surrounded in, and there's no doubt about it that we live in such a complex society today. We are this week we've been looking after a couple of our grandchildren because their parents are away at a wedding, and I'm amazed at the way they talk and what is being spoken within the playgrounds of today. And one of those talks is the identity of other children.
Right,
The female and the male, and this whole arena of, well, these agendas don't have to be today. We can be neutral, not male, not female. But okay, I don't always personally understand some of those statements. I can understand some trauma and some issues that have gone on in people's lives to make them have to think about that question.
Yeah.
Of am I male, am I female, am I neutral, am I multiple agendas, or whatever it is that we're declaring. But even in grade 3s and grade 4s and grade 5s of children that are unsure of who they are and what they are, and you can only come to one conclusion in that there is something going on within the household that our children are having to question what they are, whether they are male or whether they're female.
Yeah, I mean, before we lose all the LGBT people that are listening to us, the reality is that gender has become so locked down for what we think of people. Like, for instance, it's interesting that we're now coming round full circle with one of our grandsons who's a small-bodied little kid. He's a sweet-natured kid, and he's getting bullied at school. And we were having this chat in the car, and one of the reasons he's being bullied by the other boys is because he's not fitting the mould of what they think a boy should look like, because he's quiet, he's gentle. And I remember you and I having this conversation that he's like you were.
Yeah.
He's small-bodied, he's gentle, he gets along with girls as much because he's got sisters as much as boys. But this poor kid is contending for his lunch every day.
Yeah.
And I think that the whole epiphany of where this universe is headed to is that I believe it doesn't matter which gender we're talking about. Let's just be real about the qualities and the strengths that they have and let them flourish in it. Because our grandson is being made to become something he's not, because other boys are defining him as weak, and I think that's a shame.
Yeah.
Because he is by nature soft-natured. I mean, we've got 3 grandsons, and when they all get together, he's the one that defaults. He's the one that fits in. He's certainly not the leader. He's certainly not the loud one. But what does it matter? Because he's a sweet kid. And you were like that. Look at you now. You're a fantastic leader. You're a great father and grandfather. And I think we just get so caught up in this locked-in mode of, girls behave like this and boys behave like this. But mental health is on the rise because we're not addressing the fact that people have feelings and that men can be everything that they want to be now, and they can have these soft natures. And
No, I think we're dealing within this country because we only know what's happening within this country. Sure, other countries no doubt are very much like us, but we seem to be dealing with issues today that are so confronting to ourselves personally, yet we're not really getting any answers to our questions, that whether male, whether female, of the thoughts and places that we find ourselves in within our society and in relationships. And again, in talking in the last video, it's saying, well, who is someone that we can go to to get answers to our questions.
Yeah.
And simple ones in the fact, because we started this series, part 1 and part 2, on the whole essence of
men's mental health.
of men's mental health, and men being able to accept their masculinity.
Yeah.
So the challenge in that is, I always come back to the place that without wanting to sound crude in it, is that within the femininity arena of a woman understanding that she has purely gone from a girl, a young woman, into a adult woman, is obviously her cycle, and that a mother, if she's been a good mum, will teach her daughters of when this time is going to come, and this is when you become a woman,
Yeah.
because obviously your body has the ability to create life within it.
Yeah. True.
But for men, that is not there. There's not a port of call. There's not a
moment.
there's not the rite of passage for men to enter into. In tribal days or in older days, again, it was, okay, a son is old enough and he can go hunting now,
Yeah. True.
and he gets to kill his first animal.
Yeah.
That is a rite of passage to a tribal way of thinking. For the Jewish people, it's the bar mitzvah,
Yeah.
and at the age of 13, they had their celebration of a young boy becoming a man. In our Western culture, and I think especially in Australia, it's a little bit like, well, you either get a beer put in your hand for the first time, or you get to watch a porn movie or something, or whatever it is. And I don't believe that is creating within the maturity of young men a sense of what life is actually all about.
No.
There's this conquering of the opposite sex, the female, or it's this whole arena where we're taught masculinity in the wrong purposes and reasons for what it should be used for. Because when we come to a place of truly finding someone we want to spend the rest of our life with and love, and have a family, have children, and create a whole lifestyle for ourselves, I'm finding that men get pretty bored with that pretty quickly.
Yeah. And I think what we misunderstand is 86% of men, not just Australian men, but men globally are kinesthetic. So here in Australia, we have got 86% of men coming out of our schools uneducated in the way they need to learn. So it's been a struggle. It's been tough. And then at the end of year 12, we hand them the keys to a car and a glass of beer. And we send them off and tell them to go and find themselves, pretty much.
Or go to schoolies.
Yeah, go to schoolies. And then what happens is that these guys get into trades, or they get good at sports, and all of a sudden at 30, they're drunk one night and they mishandle themselves around a woman, and we all go, what happened? Well, nobody taught them how to be a man, how to be a gentleman, how to be the lion and the lamb, but what we did was we left them out of school and we said, now go and find your identity in what you do and make sure you earn good money, because otherwise you're a loser. Yeah. And that's so far from the truth.
The identity thing, as you mentioned, is huge.
Yeah.
Again, more for male than for female, because as we said in the first part, is that females are taught from a very young age, whether it's through playing with dolls, mum cooking with mum, and all of this aspect. And it sounds old school, I understand that, but it also teaches this community of females who get together to make jam, to cook a roast, and yet with men, sure, we can take our sons out fishing or surfing, and we can do the sports things with them. But often I find that men are not teaching their sons the rite of passage of what it means to be a man, what it means to accept your own maturity in who we are.
Yeah.
And if we're falling down as fathers and teaching our sons that, what's the next generation doing from there? And we're finding that we're living within a very angry generation of men.
For sure. And we're living in a very disjointed time. I think a lot of the emphasis is put on women because, to be honest with you, they can come home pregnant. And we know that firsthand, right?
Yeah.
But when a man is raised to understand that if he impregnates, he's responsible.
Yeah.
You know, if he impregnates, that changes his life as much as it changes hers. You know, in Australia, we have a lot of men that are disconnected to children and disconnected to their ex-wives, their ex-partners, whatever. We've got a lot of men who think that showing up once a fortnight, putting some money in the bank is all that there is. But actually, one of the greatest things a man can do for his children is love the woman who created them. Yeah. And, you know, this is a much bigger issue than we can touch on even in 2 parts.
Very much.
But here's the thing. The whole of the universe was created with a beautiful mix of feminine and masculine energy. Yeah. And when we understand that and we find our place in that and we live in all that it can be, I can promise you we will live in a fantastic planet and much will change. I am blessed to be living with this man who I've lived with for 33 years as his wife, and I can tell you that we've raised 4 amazing women. And while I did teach them about their cycles, I taught them about everything, their whole self-esteem, who they are, who they walked out of school behaving like, came from the fact that they were dated by a man who adored them. Paul was their first love and he taught them how to have a high bar. Yeah. And that, while peer groups and other things all come into play, that has set all 4 of them in good stead. Never underestimate who you are or what you can do. You've been listening to the Hortons. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.